You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back for a special edition episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. As you can see, I am clearly not at my home studio recording this podcast. I'm at the Comcast Technology Center with a special conversation with the magnificent, the legendary, the now pioneer, Miss Patty Jackson. So Patty is I'm going to pass the mic to Patty, and Patty's going to be interviewing me to talk about my book that has just came out wherever books are sold. And without further ado, let's have this lovely conversation.
Yes. We're here to really get into the case for cancel culture, how this democratic tool works to liberate us all. A lot of people said, the cancel culture. I don't like the cancel culture. I don't like the people who do cancel culture. What Ernest does in this book, he takes us back to the beginning, because cancel culture wasn't something that just started with the pandemic. Oh no, it's been around for a long, long time. It's just been given a new name. Why this book, Ernest, and why now?
That's a good question. For me, it was just that I felt like too many people hijacked what cancel culture meant. In my book, I talk about how cancel culture really started off on Black Twitter with Cisco Rosado on Love and Hip Hop, and everyone knows I love Love and Hip Hop. And so there's a guy named Cisco who was on the show in New York, and he's dating a woman named Diamond Strawberry. And her name was Diamond Strawberry. It's a true story. It's a fact. And so he's about to break up with her because she finally tells him that she's staying and she has a child and she wants him to live with her and her child. And he's like, no, he has to break up with her. So he's like, he's going to cancel this relationship. And people were shook by this, like, cancel. Like, it was catchy, like canceling a relationship like a Netflix subscription. This is interesting. And so he says later on that he was inspired to say the word cancel because of a movie called New Jack City, where Nino Brown says, cancel that bitch. And I mean, that's what he said verbatim. So he said he was inspired by that line, and that's what made him decide to pursue this. So then Black Twitter went wild about cancel. They used the word cancel, this cancel. That was cute. It was lighthearted. And then all of a sudden, white people took over it and hijacked it and made it something bigger than what it was. And next thing you know, you have Donald Trump and the Republicans and everyone saying, uncancel, America uncancel, and it becomes bigger than what it really is. And so I wanted to write a book to just remind people how this started. And if we are going to talk about what cancel means today, it's a dog whistle for accountability. It's a dog whistle for people speaking truth to power. And I wanted to reclaim the phrase and let people know what it really means and what it stands for.
Going back to history, when you talk about Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat, that was a shift in movement. That was a time when people sat up and started paying attention to what's going on down south, what they doing down there, what's going on in Montgomery. Her refusal and how you correlated that with the cancel culture. It started a movement that no one foresaw coming. How different is that period? Because it has changed. Many forms and rebirths. How would you describe that period, that then, with that moment with Rosa Parks?
Yeah, it has changed. Not the heart of it, but the way that we do it. We didn't have Twitter back then. They had to make phone calls and mobilize. They were much braver than us. And what I think about the most about that moment is that, what I tell people all the time, especially when it comes to marginalized people, they didn't decide to do that at the beginning. When we talk about cancel culture, people think it's an impulsive thing, that it's like a You didn't get your way, and they just went left. No, black people, specifically black people, in these situations, this is the last straw. This is what we do when every other option was neglected. Before she said no, there was conversations, there was letters, there was reach outs. People were trying to do this before they turned up. People talk about, when we decided to cancel the Philadelphia Inquirer with John, right? That was cancel culture. You think that we just decided to just go postal like that, the awards? That was several months of them giving us their ass to kiss. Several months of them denying meetings. Several months of them gaslighting us. And so when I think about what we did last year, and when I think about what they did back then, it's the same thing. That you try to do this in a more amicable way, a civil way, but they keep trying you and trying you and trying you. And then finally you have to, what's at your resource is cancel culture. You say, you know what? We got to boycott. We got to divest. You think about what happened with the Union League. Now, not all of city council and those elected officials stood 10 toes down on it. Some voted. We don't vote. But what was interesting was that before they got to that point, before they slid outside those steps and said enough was enough, there had been previous problems. And so when you think about women that have done Me Too, that speak out against sexual harassment and abuse, you think about Mute R. Kelly and the protests. There were several things that happened before we got to that point. And with Rosa Parks, that was not, she didn't wake up that morning and say, oh, I'm just gonna say no. Right. There were several things that was done before that got to that point. And so I write a whole chapter about it when cancel was the only option. Because it literally is the only option when you get to that point. Why would the most marginalized people take the biggest risks first? Why? It makes no sense. And that's why we do it. That's why she did it. That's why John did it. That's why the Me Too activists did it. That's why those elected officials outside of the Union League did it. Because it was the last option they had.
When you look at the growth of your career, we're going to go back to Nipplegate and Janet Jackson. I always say that Ernest knows how to stir the pot. You stirred it. It made a lot of people sit up, listen up. You knew how to thwart those who wanted to cancel you. Because a lot of these pop stars, they have like these fan armies.
I know.
And they will just come after you. And Justin Timberlake, at that time, was like the biggest pop star in the land. Yeah. And loved by everyone. Didn't matter if you're black, didn't matter if you're white. But then that piece of cloth came on. And he was like doing the Michael Jackson moonwalk. Well, I ain't got nothing to do with this. And we all was like, huh? Cry me a river.
That's right.
You stood up to say, you're going to take account for this. Because we love our Jacksons.
That's right.
We love our Janet Jackson. And no. And she was treated horribly.
Yeah.
Horribly. I mean, to this day, CBS doesn't want to apologize. That's why she wasn't at the Grammys.
That's right.
They were supposed to honor her, and do something big. But because they wouldn't apologize, she's like, this is that period of your life. How was that? Because that started a movement. Now, how did it feel at first? It's like, they coming at me like this.
Yes. Thank you. And that's, wow, it's been 2016 it happened. I had like about 2,000 followers on Twitter. I wasn't verified. I have a blue check. I have all of that. And I was just at home watching the BET Awards and, Jesse Williams at that time before he had his other issues later. But he was a great guy at the time. I mean, he got a Tony nomination, so I guess it's still good. But he had won a humanitarian award, and I remember it like it was yesterday, the whole night. Because it was like, I tweeted and I quote tweeted him. I'm like, he's not responding to me. I ain't nobody on the internet to respond to. He shouldn't have responded to me, to be honest. I've learned now with the followers I have, I don't respond to I be telling the mandates on Twitter, like, do not feed the birds. Do not feed the trolls. I have dealt with nasty comments my entire career. So let me tell you how young I am. I'm 31. Every single article I've ever written in my career has a URL to it, a link. I was a columnist in the Daily. Okay, thanks, Mom. But it has a link to it. And so I was a columnist in Daily Pennsylvania when I had the Ernest opinion there before I went to Metro, I had the Ernest opinion. But all these things had hyperlinks, which meant that oftentimes they opened themselves up to be shared widely on the internet. You can comment in the comment sections, all of that stuff. I dealt with that stuff, you know. Some of y'all remember, okay, Penn knows, and it was wild. People just say whatever they want to say, they still do. Philly Mag doesn't have a comment section. You can go comment on Facebook or Instagram, which is enough space for them to have a democratic opinion with their name and account to it. Not just some random anonymous. Put a name. See, I talk shit with my name and my face on it. I put my name on it. I add people. And I did that one night in June in 2016 without a blue check and a bunch of followers. But in that moment, it taught me about power. It was a David and Goliath moment. I spoke the truth. He tried to, and it's so funny, I'm looking at Cassie Owens. We're not related, but we might be. And she wrote a piece about that, at Hope. Small role. But in that moment, it was a power dynamic because he definitely was like, oh, I'm gonna make a little clown of this guy. No one's gonna pay any mind to him, that thing. But that thing called Black Twitter. That thing called Black Twitter. You know, I'm one of the, legends of Black Twitter now. I can claim that. I've had a lot of bodies under Black Twitter. I am one of the legendary girls. But I really love Black Twitter. But they said, wait, but he's making a point. And they started pulling up receipts faster than I had them, because I was asleep actually. When everything went down, I said what I said, I logged off, I went to sleep. My phone started vibrating, like a vibrator on my chest. It just kept. I said, what the hell is going on? One of my friends who's not here, he messaged me and was like, hey, you're on this article. What article? And there was another article, another article, another article. And then my editor at Philly Mag at the time, Patrick Kirschner, called me in the morning and said, we need to talk. I said, oh, am I in trouble? What's going on? He says, hey, you're hot in the news. Can you write something up for us real quick? And then I realized the importance of fast prose, fast turnaround. So I whipped something up. Metro, who I was freelancing for at the time, they put me in the front cover of the newspaper. And all of a sudden people knew who I was, or people, you know how it goes. It's like today, all these people messaging me, I'm so proud of you. You haven't spoken to me anyway. So you have a lot of that happens, right? Y'all know. But it just started to happen, all these people. And it went viral. Next thing I'm to be talking about on The View, Charlamagne the God named me Donkey of the Day, which I look at as an honor now because he's an asshole of the decade. And it just grew. And at the time, it was complicated because it was weird when it first happened. Because there were some people that were like, yeah, he's making a good point. But there was a lot of people like Whoopi Goldberg who had a bad take that thought what I was saying was like, they didn't understand what cultural appropriation was. They just was like, what is this conversation? It's funny how like a lot of phrases that people didn't get, they now get. Like Black Lives Matter. We remember when we was in college, it's so divisive. What about White Lives Matter? They just didn't get it. Then all of a sudden George Floyd dies and everyone's like, Black Lives Matter. We're gonna black out our Instagram page. Just like that. I wonder what other things we could just do to make them just snap like that. I've had lots of conversations with my editors at Philly Mag, and I'm thinking about all the conversations that I've had with Tim, Brian, Laura, everyone about just those phenomenons. And it was one of those moments where at that time it wasn't popular, but then time evolves. I think about people who were canceled. Because technically Janet Jackson was canceled in 2004. She was canceled. And I'm a Janet stan, so I was happy to be the one to exonerate her. No kidding. It took people like me and other people to have that conversation, say, let's go bring that back again. Kind of like the conversation around Monica Lewinsky. Monica Lewinsky was canceled in the late 90s. It was now we talk about power and sex in a different way now. This book talks about that evolution, that the things that we may have canceled before, is different. They cancel gay marriage, and then I get married, 2 years ago. It can change. But it's about us as a community and society evolving and changing our viewpoints that changes that. So, that night was wild. The phone was vibrating off the hook. I had to charge the phone. I had to learn how to not put my phone on vibrate because it was annoying. I learned how to put in parameters. I think the way the settings were on Twitter at the time, any notification you got was a vibrate. So I had 2,000. I wasn't popping like that, so I was used to that. Now, I just got it on mute now. So, right now, I don't know what's going on. But it was a different time, and it showed me the importance that you could be someone in a $450 a month studio apartment as a freelancer in West Philly on 50th and Arch Street, getting paid at Metro, not Philly Mag, $100 an article, working, tweeting, and the next thing you know, you're in front cover of the very newspaper you was writing for.
Let's talk comedians.
All right, Patty.
Many comedians say, oh, we can't be funny anymore. Cancel culture's going to get us, so we can't say that. Time and time again, we talked about this in our interview, Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
He stands up there very defiant. You ain't going to cancel me. Go on. He coming to the Roots Picnic. He's the headliner. He kicking off Friday. Kicks off with him. When comedians are putting away, or you hear these comedians, the Adam Carollas, we can't be funny anymore. Mm-hmm. Is it all about being accountable? Or should they really say, oh, I just can't be accountable anymore? Because think about it. Years ago, people in blackface, they laughed at that.
Go off.
They laugh at that. Could never do that today. Like, never do that. Nobody dare not put black marker on their face and come in with watermelon and red lips. That could not happen today. So you see how things have changed. But dealing with it from when you hear these comedians.
Well, I just want to say fuck Dave Chappelle.
Okay.
I don't think trans people are a joke. I don't think people like me are a joke. We live in a society that says don't say gay policies, that marginalize and kill black trans women every day, and kill people that look like me every day. We don't have equal laws. I'll start with this. People's, the hoteps and those ignorant folks, they'll say, y'all get all the rights. Really? We don't have the Equality Act that has not been federally passed. So just a quick little history lesson here. So in Pennsylvania, we have marriage equality because that's the law of the land. The Supreme Court made marriage equality law of the land. People keep equating marriage equality with gay rights. It's one of the gay rights, but not all the gay rights. So, municipalities, individual cities, they create equality. So I live in Philadelphia. Philadelphia has rights for me. There is no federal protections for LGBTQ people from housing, employment, discrimination. It's just marriage. Which means that if you're in different parts of Pennsylvania right now, you could go get married on Saturday, go to work at your job. And if you put a picture of your partner up, you could lose your job. You cannot get a house. You can lose certain public accommodations. And certain areas don't have those protections. So when people say, you got all your rights, that's not true. Not everywhere. That's why I'm here in Philadelphia. That's why I was born in Chicago. That's why I grew up in Houston. I had to be in cities that were protected. I don't have the luxury to go off to, Elizabethtown or Lancaster or whatever these other places are, where these laws are not the same equally. And federally, they're not as well. So there's just a lot of hypocrisies and inconsistencies with these policies. And so when you're making these jokes, it reminds me of the time where people didn't have rights in the 1950s. It was okay to make jokes about Black people who did not have those rights because you didn't see them as full citizens. So you will make jokes about people who are the weakest link, people who don't have the same access and resources. They don't crack the same jokes about trans people like they do about straight white men. They go for the weakest person. So in humor and comedy, we've always seen them cherry pick who's the weakest. So at first it was Black people and Jewish people. Then it was disabled people. Then it was certain people. So they would pick who. And now it was gay people. Now it's getting more specific to trans people. They're going for the most marginalized of the marginalized people that don't have the full rights. And so it's interesting that the jokes evolved. When I was little, I remember Comic View. Who remember Comic View? Y'all remember Comic View? And it was cringy watching that when I was little because there were some jokes that would be funny, and it would always be that part of the joke where they would make fun of gay people. And they would just over-exaggerate us. Like Amos and Tommy, everything was yes, and all of that. They would just overdo it. Like, Living Color, hated it. And this is what people thought about gay people. And then people still think that way. They come up to me, they don't know my crew. I'll be with the Lit Brothers and them, and we'll go out, and these women will come or whatever, be like, y'all better work. And we just look at them like, what? It's like if the white person comes to you and say, that's what's up, man. It's like, why are you doing that? You're corny. Now, we might do that when you leave, but that's not for you to do. Know your place. And things get really different. And we know this in culture, where you become commodified and when you become exploited. And so I'm not a fan of the Roots Picnic this year. There's too many problematic people on that lineup for me to count. You got Dave Chappelle up there in the banner. You got Charlemagne the God. You got DJ Academics. That's what you want. And then what's funny? They have local podcasts. Those are people that have podcasting. And they just, for whatever reason, won't have Ernestly speaking at the Roots Picnic. Why not mix it up? It's never like, they say they want to include everybody, but they always leave the gays out, don't they? They always leave the Black women out, right? They always leave, they leave the people that they say they're not trying to offend out. So, I'm not going to that picnic. It's canceled over here in this house, right? Because these people say they're allies, they know gay people, but then they continue to do this. So I don't look at what your words say, I look at your actions. Because if the white people did this and they had, Mel Gibson headlining, okay, it would be a problem, right? But when it's us, it's Black women, it's the Black queer people in the community. I don't know. Not in 2023. I don't know. Because my Black gay influence and my Black gay dollars is what you want to attract. So I'm telling all the Black gays and all the Black women, don't go to the Roots Picnic. Feminista Jones went out and said something today. Shout out to her for saying that. We're not standing for it. Let them know. And I would love to have a meeting with them. There's some people in here that know those people. Put Ernestly speaking on there. Equivocate it. Give us space. It's always this, we're missing voices. Well, I'm the missing voice. I'm the missing voice. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you. They say we want to fill the gaps. They say they want to fill the gaps. They want to fill this gap. It's people like me that's the gap. You have all this talent, and you continue to put the same mediocre, basic, bald Black men that are cishet that continue to crap on Black women, queer people, and everybody else. It's the same people all the time. Enough. Don't call it a Black picnic. Call it a Black Hotep picnic. Call it the cishet Black man picnic with the yes people, the what they call pick-me's. Have that. Call it the Roots Pick-Me picnic. Call it that. But don't call it a community event for community. Because it's not for me. It's not for you. It's not for you. It's not for us. Stop calling yourself an ally if you're buying tickets to that shit. Because it's not helping people like me. Because they're gonna get up there, they're gonna say something offensive, it's gonna go viral, and then y'all gonna say, oh, we didn't expect them to say that. Like you didn't expect Kanye to keep saying the things he's been saying. How many times are you gonna keep giving platforms to assholes? And then people like me have to wait 10 years to get a C citation. But then you say, I respect your work. Good job. Wonderful work you did. Wonderful things you said. I could go off, but y'all get it. Y'all see it. And they come and smile in your face and they pat you in the back and say they're proud of you. Every time, don't they? We gotta get books. We gotta be at Comcast before people recognize what we do.
Talk about it.
But you could be mediocre on Instagram all day and make corny dad jokes. And get tons of sponsorship deals. And get platforms on Poop Picnic. But black women out here working hard in media and doing press can't get a platform in the seat. Black women in media, I'm the president of Love, can't get black women to get access or platforms. Or they have to be Angela Yee. They have to work with misogynists in order to get a platform they own to then get the spotlight. All right. Next question.
You ever heard that saying, poke the bear? Well, we poked. What's next? What do you think? What do you see as what's next? And should people be more kinder in our society? You know, does just get down to a basic, just be kind. Everyone has an opinion. There's tons of keyboard gangsters, as I call them. People that just want to be mean on social media. You can say no one knows who you are, but they can get behind that keyboard and just go talking away. Where does kindness come into play? And what's next?
Thank you. What's next is this book tour. What's next is this book tour. And you know, I like being in a position in my career where I don't have to know what's next, but I know what's better. You know, for many years, I can't predict this stuff. I didn't think I was gonna have a book by now. I didn't think I was gonna be the editor-at-large of the magazine by now. This is my ancestors' wildest dreams, and
yes, it is.
It is.
Better tell.
Thank you. I have just learned to just keep doing the work. Just do the work. Just do it, and it will take you there. If you are good to people, and you invest in your community, and you do good by people, you're honest to people, you work with people, that it will take care of itself. I don't have to strategize what's next. I just kind of just do my thing, and people create opportunities for me. You know, it's funny like that. Like Eric, I just can't stop praising this man enough. He's right there. Oh my God, I love you, Eric. Just told him I had an interest in the book, and he did the rest. He thought of it. He knew an agent. He was at the agency, and just did that for me. I didn't have to do all of that. Sometimes we're in life trying to calculate every little thing. I just do what I love to do every day. I do right by people, and I believe in that because I do the same for people. Where a person does something, I see them, they make an impression on me, and then I'm like, they're in my mind, and I'm thinking of them when they aren't thinking of me, or they're just thinking in general. And I'm just like, you know, I know someone who's good for this. I just feed that in the universe, and I've done that for a lot of people, and those people have done that for me, and I believe in that force in nature to just continue to pour into people and show your gratitude to people and thank people. And I can be able to say that I can know that every person that's meant something to me, I've expressed it and showed them in some type of way. I didn't wait to the end. I didn't wait to get something or get this or get that. Every single person in this room, I think, knows how much I care about them, how much I value them, and I show it in different ways. And I think that's the way it should really work, is that you just do the work and you create opportunities. I think a couple of years ago, I just stopped putting goals because I was exceeding the goals faster than I was actually thinking I could. Like, the book was supposed to be by 40. Seriously, it was supposed to be about 40. I didn't know how I could fit it in my schedule between being a professor at Cheney. Hi, Dr. Hazel Spears. A lot of this stuff's supposed to happen then. Master's degree, I was like, 35. Got it before 30. Married, I wanted to be married by 30. That happened. But I wanted to just because at that point I was with him at 22, so I just was like, mathematically, well, it shouldn't be long. I'm not judging anybody tonight. Do your thing. But I just had like all these little goals in mind of things. And a lot of times I was comparing those metrics to other people's metrics. People were like, by this point you do this, by this point you do this. But I just kept skipping and going ahead of that. And so I just started saying, you know what, I'm not going, what's your 10-year plan, your 5-year plan? I don't know. Better than what, so my new response always is better than where I am now. That's my response. Because I can't predict it. Like, I did not think I was going to the Grammys. I didn't think I was going to meet Oprah, interview Oprah. I didn't think I was going to do all these things. I just did not. But it's just, you just go out, you be yourself, you be honest to people. Be honest to people. Let's start there. You're talking about being kind. Fuck kindness, be real. Let's start there. Be honest to people. I think there's kindness in honesty. Be real to yourself. Be true to who you are. That sounds corny, but I'm saying it in a way of radical transparency with yourself because I get so annoyed with a bunch of smiley face people, but they're not real. A lot of people, that's nice. Oh, that's great. Positive vibes only. And then it's just passive. It's passive. There's no impact. There's no real gravitas to any of that stuff. It's just like, you know. But what I've learned is that being honest has been the best thing for me. It's given me the most connections, opportunities, feelings, joy. It's given me real friends. I know who my real friends are. They know who I am. I know they like me for who I am because I'm being myself with them, which is really important. And it's given me a place of clarity. And so I think I start from there. Be real with yourself. Be honest about what you want. Be intentional. Do you have to tell everybody every single map of your plan? No. I don't share everything. I am Beyonce in that way. People get annoyed with it, but it's my life, whatever. But it's just you give yourself your space to know what your plan is. And if it makes sense to you, that's all that matters. Until you have kids and you have to factor them in. I don't have any, so I can be selfish. But you want to be in a space of your plan makes sense to you. It has to make sense to you. A lot of times we want to get so much fucking feedback. Now, feedback matters from good editors. Good editors. If you have a bad editor, don't have it. But if you have good editors, that's when you take feedback. But when it comes to your life plan, your life strategy, you need to know what makes sense for you. People are so worried about what other people think. I never did because I think the best thing about being young, black, and gay is that you come in the world realizing that no one gives a fuck about you, you know? That in many ways that they predict the worst out of you anyway. I would say this, I'm gonna have a little soapbox, I'm sorry, Patty. But one of the things that annoys me the most, this is deep, I'm going off, yes? Is that when people describe me in public, they say controversial, troublemaker, rebel rouser, all of those things. Black men who do crimes and bad behavior, violent, rebel rouser, difficult. I have a fucking Ivy degree. I have no criminal record. I'm married with the same man I've been with for 9 years. I pay my taxes on time. I'm a business owner. I am a college professor at HBCU. I have a lot of things. Why not? I get to be brilliant. You get to let Elon Musk. You get to let, thank you. You get to let Elon Musk, right, who also went to Penn, get to be a boss, a genius, and creative. You know, Mark Zuckerberg gets to be all those adjectives, but black men like me don't get those adjectives. We criminalize black people who are successful and black people who are not successful. We criminalize it, and it's us in our own community that use that language. We need to think about the words we use. When I think of Anthony Phillips, Councilmember Anthony Phillips, I think of brilliant, brave, bold. I think of my friend Josh, creative, innovative. I think of George as just a genius, just so full of life and humorous. I think of my husband, who is just so talented and multifaceted. I think of Jamarcus, who's just a visionary. I think of my friend Lauren, who was studious and just such a pro. I think of Amanda, who's just beautiful and bright and promising. I think of Joe, who was just such a very serious but stoic guy. Nina, who was just a badass, and Samantha, who was just gorgeous and just vibrant. Sharon, who was just so regal. Abel, who was smart as fuck. Cena, who was brilliant. I think of all of these people down here. My brothers, Kelby, who was so sneaky. And a joy. And Kaden, my youngest, who was just hilarious and full of life and funny and throws great shade. And all these brilliant adjectives, this is how I think of my friends. And I think of Manny, who we always call him Messy Manny, but that's what we call him. You can't call him that. But he's marvelous. He's marvelous. And Teresa on point. And Kamari, a hustler and a good money man, which we don't ever talk about. We don't give Black people these types of compliments. We connect it to crime and bad behavior. And I hate that. I hate it. It's my biggest pet peeve. Because for all the work that I do and all the work that these Black people do and all the work that all of you all in this room do, we don't give each other those words. It's so easy to say troublemaker, but what about game changer? Right? We so quick, yeah. You know, white people who do half of the white folks that I know get bigger props and praise. Do half as much as what we do, and they don't get the same. So I would encourage people, since we're talking about kindness, to give each other better adjectives that describe what we do. Decriminalize Black excellence.
That's right there.
You have to decriminalize it. I've been in this industry for 10 years, and some of these people, y'all know, y'all see what they say. They criminalize it. It really made me cry when Catherine was reading the stuff she was reading, because I was like, well, damn. I didn't know City Council unanimously thought of that. What kind of backdoor is it? Did Ryan come in there? Ryan Boyd come in there? I was shook. But we have so much of that I just think collectively we should do in our own, because society does that enough. We watch Fox News, they label us enough. They label queer people enough. They label women enough. You know, we hear the stuff that is said, but in our own vernacular, let's describe what we do better. This isn't mess. This is marvelous.
Absolutely.
This is marvelous. You know, I think of Meryl Streep in The Devil Wears Prada, and she says the stuff about stuff. Remember that? That's how I feel when people describe my work. Oh yeah, that journalism thing you do. Thing. And I read them to filth, and you know, they get it together. But we gotta do a better job describing the work that we do better. It's not stuff. It's not a thing. I hate people that, I did a thing today. Fuck out of here. I'm gassing my shit up. Because listen, society will not gas up Black women's work, Black queer people's work enough. I did a little thing. Don't be humble about that. You work too hard. You work too hard to call it a thing. You work too hard to call it a thing. This is not a thing. This is not a book. This is an experience. This is a project. I spent years working on this. The wonderful people, Cassidy and Martin and John, and all those great people, we worked our asses off to put this together. Put some respect on our names. Put some respect on your names. Put some respect on everybody's work. Put some respect on Black people's work. Seriously, I feel, y'all feel me on this? I just, something in me feels that way about it. But I want to say but I do want to say it's a good podcast. I do want to say to the point that you made about people and how this evolves on cancel culture. And I talk about this in my book. It's one of my favorite parts of the book, because everyone's been saying lately, and this is my final drum, unless you have a final question, but everyone's been saying, why is everyone talking about cancel culture right now? Why is everyone so up in arms? Why does it feel like it's so hot right now? I say because more people in society in America has more access to free speech and rights than we've ever had in human history. So I think about my grandma, 1950s. If she was called the N-word or the C-word because she was a woman and she was black, she could write a letter to the editor and say, hey, I thought this op-ed written by this white man was problematic. She didn't have that First Amendment right to do that. She didn't get access to that. It was okay to tell a black woman in that position, we're not running that. Today, let's be clear, in the 1950s, let's go back to the 1950s real quick. The only people who had unlimited access to give their opinions were cishet Christian white men. Yep. Women, Latinos, queer people, black people, anybody else, Muslims, you didn't get that. You protested, you got arrested. You didn't get visibility on TV, you didn't have a platform. Now let's fast forward to 2023. All of us have the ability to raise our voices. And so if you was a white man who's still alive today in 1950, but you're alive now, you feel some type of way. You went from going from, me and my homeboys, the Klan, we had opinions. Now we gotta share these opinions with everybody else. Now everybody else can have an opinion about what I said. Now I can feel shame for what I said. Now I can lose my job. That's why they're mad. Because they didn't have that. They didn't have to hear what we thought. What we thought, it was a word they say, children to be seen, not heard. That was the rest of us. We were seen, but we couldn't be heard. Today, we get a chance to be heard and seen. And they're struggling with that. They're mad. When they say they want to take the country back, they mean they want to take it back to when they were the only ones. And so cancel culture to them is this. It's the cancellation of their privilege. It's the cancellation of their intrinsic sexism and homophobia and racism. It's the cancellation of white supremacy and the byproduct that gave them those liberties. They're mad. And the people, the Dave Chappelles, the Charlamagne the Gods, and them other headliners at the Roots Picnic, they benefit from that same white supremacy. They benefit from that. They benefit from those platforms because if they were speaking something more empowering like me, they wouldn't get that platform. Because people like me with this type of platform don't get to be on the Roots Picnic stage. It's easier to sell bigotry than it is to sell brilliance. I can go, this book would be so easy to sell if I said the case to cancel black women. It would sell faster. I might get an interview on The Breakfast Club. Hell, I might get a slot on, make it a transphobe. The case to cancel trans women. I mean, that's pretty much what Charlamagne gotta say the jokes on him. I might be on a pin. Roots goes. It's like you get penalized for being smart. It's like being a dumbass sells. And so because people like me, smart black people, smart folks like you all, we're resurrecting nerdland. The nerds of the world, the smart people, the conscious people are fighting back. And they're mad because it's forcing them to have to read. It's forcing them to have to think. It's forcing them to have to be kind. It's forcing them to have to not fuck around and find out. It's forcing them to have to do things they never have to consider doing. They're like, wow, I have to acknowledge pronouns now. Yes, you do. Damn, I don't know all the acronyms in LGBTQIA. Yeah, but you know all of the hoteps and all their sayings, don't you? You know all of the baby's lyrics, don't you? You know all the trash ass black blogs that disrespect black women, don't you? You know all those rap lyrics, all those horrible songs that debase women and queer people every day. You can learn a couple of new things, right? Because guess what? We all had to. Black people, black women, we all had to learn how to code switch. We had to learn European history before we learned black history, AP classes. We had to learn things that was completely out of our culture. And we had to do that and keep our heads up with dignity and succeed. Now we're forcing them to have to do the same. And now they probably understand why we've been mad for so many years. So this book is the conversation starter, the manifesto, the movement to forcing people to rethink their behavior and to hold themselves more accountable so they don't have to be canceled. It starts with yourself. It starts with yourself. It starts with learning. It starts with reading. It starts with having conversations. It starts with reading the room. Y'all know that's my favorite thing about podcasts, read the room. It starts with doing that extra step. Because I will say this, and I won't name it, but not all cancellations are the same, as I said in my book. And there are some communities that people learn not to touch those communities, but they choose to touch other communities. They like, somehow my free speech learns not to mess with this group of people. But I can fuck with these people all day. I'm trying to make it equal. Don't fuck with us, don't fuck with them, don't fuck with none of us. That's where I'm an equal opportunity enforcer. Don't fuck with Jews, don't fuck with black people, don't fuck with queer people, don't fuck with immigrants, don't fuck with Muslims, don't fuck with them in intersections. Right? You can't cherry pick. See, Ruth Picnic wants you to think that it's okay that they can disrespect the trans people as long as they don't disrespect the straight black men. It's okay to mess and disrespect and debase plus size women, but it's cute if we can do the skinny women, right? It's okay for them to disrespect dark-skinned women, but light-skinned women, that's fine. I'm saying that we're all a community, and we all need to be supporting each other and respecting each other, and this book is going to hold more people accountable. So hopefully y'all will pass out some Case for Cancel Culture books at the Ruth Picnic. I will give you a free treat to anybody who so happens to be at that concert. Complicit. But I would encourage you, give them, if you could give Charlamagne a copy of that book and tell him to read it, I'll be so happy. Throw the book at Dave Chappelle. Not violently. Softly toss the book. I'm not encouraging violence. Toss, not throw. Words matter. And DJ Academics, give him an autograph copy, and I will autograph it and say dickhead and make sure it's for him. That's being kind. I'm giving them books to read, to educate themselves. Yes.
You are brilliant. You are a game changer. I guess I can't say rebel rouser.
You can say that.
Okay.
Because it's a term of endearment from you.
Okay. But he is a brilliant game changer. This book is the case for cancel culture. It makes a great book, a gift.
Stocking stuffer.
It really does. So make sure that you read it and understand it and just really understand what it really is. I'll make sure, Charlamagne is not a friend of mine, I'll make sure you get this.
Wonderful.
I'm gonna make sure you get
Wonderful. Thank you. We are already making progress tonight. Please do. So that's everything? Good?
That's everything.
All right. Well, before I wrap up, you know what I always say. And as always, be well and
Be back.
thank you all.
Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.